Hey, good morning. I've got a question for you. What's your commitment as a seller? Have you ever thought about your commitment as a seller? I know it's to take the money, get them to sign the contract or the agreement, or to show up or give them the goods or services. But what really is your commitment? How far does it go? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more on episode 831 of today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Bob. How are you this morning?
I'm good, except I didn't get the things I had to get done in time, and there was a slight glitch there. It drives me crazy. So, no one knows but me.
Okay. And yet it still drives you crazy?
It does. It's a game I play. I have 37 seconds to do what takes about 36 and a half seconds. And it's harder when I do the introduction because if you're doing the introduction, I actually have closer to a minute, sometimes a minute and a half. But when I do the introduction, I can't be doing two things at once because I've tried and that's never worked.
Never?
I'm struggling at times to do one thing at once.
That's fair.
Depending on what the one thing is.
You mean, are we going to share that one thing today?
Yeah. Yes, that's good. I like that. That was.
Hopefully others caught that as well.
You caught me off guard there. You really did.
Part of my goal every morning. How do I catch
you do it? Most mornings you catch me off guard.
All right, everyone. Good morning and welcome to today's Antidote, our daily broadcast and podcast. Each weekday morning, Bob and I have a conversation around a topic, and then each day we take a deeper dive into that topic. This week, we're talking about your commitment pretty much after the sale. So last week, we talked about discussing what happens when you get a yes. The week before that was dealing with a no. So we've been talking all the last probably a month around decisions that people make around your products or services. Maybe it's decisions you make around buying other people's products and services. And today we're going to talk a little bit about what's your commitment as the seller once they say yes and buy, and now what happens. So we'll dive into that. And as we're having that conversation, if you have thoughts and ideas you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments. Your buttons, you had to have your buttons button.
I did. It was really bothering me. I was waiting for you to say something. I do like the look of the button down versus the out loose. Yeah.
So for those on the podcast, Bob was rearranging the buttons on his shirt.
I had the shirt dry cleaned, and it's the first time I've worn it. So
nothing like a good, freshly dry cleaned shirt.
Yeah, so this is a shirt that's thin enough. I probably could have washed it. I don't know how it got in the dry cleaning pile, but these are the things that challenge us.
Or at least you.
Yes, at least me. I had to dress up today. I have a thing, ribbon cutting for someone I've done some work with over the years. He's got a new office, and I'm going to the ribbon cutting. I don't dress up that much anymore. I'm in the penthouse working most of the time. So this morning I had to be conscious, oh, I have to put on a shirt with buttons, and I have nice pants on, and I'll have to put nice shoes on. I don't do that very much anymore. And tomorrow I have to do it again because I have something else. That's 2 days in a row. This is getting crazy. I mean, this is I don't know, circa 2019.
Okay. And as we have our conversation around the topic, not Bob's clothing attire and what he wears each day at work, please feel free to share your thoughts and ideas because we know that'll add value to the conversation. At the conclusion of that conversation, Bob and I will each offer our one thing, our today's antidote, that thing that we hope will help you figure out if you might be stuck, uncertain, lacking a little bit of confidence around how to take your next step, we hope that it might be able to help you. And of course, if you have one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to share it in the comments as well. Because by you sharing it, it might be what someone else is actually looking for. Might be the opportunity for you to hear it, even though people have said it to you all the time. You might actually hear it from a different voice or from someone different. So please feel free to share your value. Prior to diving into that conversation, each morning, Bob and I share our celebrations. Bob, what are you celebrating today?
I'm going to celebrate the fact that someone I did some work for over the years, Joe Conroy, took an older building up in the area near where I live, up in Bel Air, Maryland, and he converted it into a really nice office space. He really has redone it, from new landscaping, new parking lot, to really gutting it down to its bare bones. And now it is a beautiful place. I can't wait. I saw it about 6 weeks ago, as it was in probably 2/3 of the way finished. And I can't wait to get in there today. It is just beautiful and breathtaking. It's an area that's very visible as you're in this town. And it's just nice when someone takes on the challenge of dealing with the zoning, the historical society, because it was a historical site, and gets it done so that it looks beautiful, and it kind of gives a longer presence to that building. And I think it's great when the old buildings get reused as opposed to sitting vacant or being torn down.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
I am going to celebrate that. As many of you know that have been following, if you're listening for the first time, I officiate women's lacrosse, girls and women's lacrosse. And yesterday, the NCAA announced the Division III conference, or the Division III tournament, NCAA tournament championship. And I was selected to do some first and second round games on the field. So,
hey, that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many games?
So I have the first game, I'm on the table. And then
Okay.
the second,
which is the person who keeps track of who's in and who's out, and
sort of, yeah.
Okay.
We are there as a resource for coaches, for the timekeeper, and to manage the substitution box, among other things.
A resource for the coaches, meaning they yell at you rather than the officials on the field?
Well, the hope is that they ask me questions and I'm able to answer their questions rather than trying to track down an official while the official is trying to pay attention to 16.
How's that work? I don't see that happening much. But maybe it's just me.
No, actually, it depending on the coach, it can be helpful. Because not all the coaches are, they're not always watching who makes the sign, or the official might be busy making a call and they didn't see what the sign was, so I can at least tell them what the foul was.
Okay.
Why things are happening the way they're happening. So it's just it's another resource. It's what they need in the most. Anytime you've ever watched a women's lacrosse broadcast, half the people don't know the rules. And I was watching the one the other day, and the announcers said that it was this foul, and it wasn't even close to that.
Okay.
And and even if they had known what happens in a setup around a foul, they would have known that it wasn't the foul that they thought it was. So anyhow,
okay. So you're doing the table for a game in the first round, and then are you on the field for a second round?
I'm on the field for the second round. Yes.
As the lead official, or
no?
One of the.
I'm one of the other officials. So
what part of the world will you be doing this in?
Southwestern Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Nice.
York area, to be specific. So.
That's not sort of South Central, isn't York? South Central, Southwestern would be like over near Pittsburgh.
Well, Pittsburgh's in the north of Pennsylvania. Just saying.
No, it's in the west.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's in the west. If you go further up, you go up to
northwest. Not in the south of Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh's not south of Pennsylvania. No, it's not. I will agree with you on that.
I said in the south of Pennsylvania. Isn't Pittsburgh up by Cleveland, which are both in the corners, northern corners
It's
of the
not in the
state,
corner. The corner would be like Meadville or something up further.
which is right outside of Pittsburgh.
No. Meadville's like an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Pittsburgh. Up near Erie, right? All right,
Yes.
I'm calling up a map right now.
Erie is east of Pittsburgh.
All right, I'm calling up a map. I can't take it. I apologize to you folks who are expecting something incredibly insightful today, but
Well, this might be insightful. Help them find out where Pittsburgh is.
there's someone going, I've lived there my whole life. I can't believe these doofuses don't know this. Oh, come on. Where's the
They can
map?
share that in the comments.
Yeah, help us. Help us help ourselves.
You don't have a, you can't get a map.
I went to Wikipedia and there is a large, there's a lot of distraction. I'm learning about William Penn at the moment. Why don't we keep going and I'll keep researching while we talk? How's that sound?
That would be fine. So that's my celebration. Is that this weekend I will be participating in the NCAA Division III Women's Lacrosse Championships tournament.
This is the first weekend. There's an additional weekend, right?
There's 2 more weekends after this.
Could you get assigned to the subsequent weekends?
Good. Last year I did. Last year I
Okay.
had a table in the second weekend.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens there.
Okay, so I am looking at a map of Pittsburgh.
Oh, man.
I'm sorry, of Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh is southwest. It is below the center line of the state.
Yeah.
Erie is way, way, way up north in like a little cutout.
Yeah, I know where Erie is. Erie's
Okay.
not far from where I lived.
Okay, Erie and Pittsburgh are way far away from each other. They are farther away from, they're about the same distance from each other as Pittsburgh to Harrisburg, if you've made that trip. And
Yeah.
York is east of Harrisburg, correct? And south of Lancaster, so it would really be south central Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but it's a long way to. All right, whatever. I was incorrect.
Oh, that's what I've waited now 831 episodes. Finally got what I've been waiting for. Here, Michael's in. I didn't notice Michael's comment. Meadville is just south of Erie. I know this because my father went to Allegheny College up in Meadville.
Oh, he did.
He did. Yes.
I know a friend who went to Allegheny College.
Okay. My father died. There's a tree there in my father's name.
Wow.
I haven't been up there to see it. I would like to. It's on my list of things to do. But I don't think you really make a trek to Meadville unless you have a purpose.
You could.
Yes, I could. There are lots of things I could do.
Well, your purpose could be to go see the tree.
How far would Meadville or Erie be from like Niagara Falls?
A
Couple
good
hours?
distance. Michael will help us out with that because Erie is. Michael says an hour and 20 minutes north of Pittsburgh is Meadville or Erie.
Because
maybe.
I would go up there to go see. I've been to Niagara Falls once, and that's just like I could stay there the rest of my life. That is
probably at least 2 hours from Meadville, at least.
Okay.
Because you got to go all the way up to the. You would have to go up to like Jamestown, which is in the far southwest corner of New York, and then go north, which is probably not that far.
2 hours 30 minutes to the falls.
Michael is on it for us.
Michael is on it. Now I just want to keep testing him. How far is San Diego from San Francisco, Michael? Let's see if he can do the West Coast.
That's a long way. Michael doesn't live.
I'm Mr. GPS this morning.
We might have to make Michael our producer. He's given us all the details in our ears.
That's it. So
all right.
Well, I'm glad Michael's here. It's good to see him this morning.
Now that we have our geography lesson out of the way, and I have been schooled in that,
Let's get to our topic.
Sounds good. Do you want to kick us off?
I do. I absolutely do. So I think there's a perception among people selling things that once you sell it, once you take the money, the hard part's finished. I got the sale. Oh, I'm so relieved I got the sale. I can count the money. I can do this. In fact, you and I were having a discussion before the program where I was doing some of that. I was, you were asking me, well, okay, how long will this run and how long will that run? And I was counting my money and I wasn't thinking about the work that goes into it. And I think our commitment as the seller, if we want to have a client or customer for a long term, is that we've got to honor their commitment to us. And it's not one and done. And I'll give you a great example. Years ago, I had heart surgery, a pretty serious heart surgery. And the doctor did a beautiful procedure. I went home. Everything was great. His commitment wasn't just to do great surgery. The night before the surgery, he called at 8 p.m. and said, do you have any questions? Are you ready? Can I do anything to make it easier? Are you planning to get a good night's sleep? Here are a couple things to remember. Okay, great. After the surgery, after I went home, he called and said, hey, how's it going? And so his commitment, and I said to him when I went in for a follow-up, you made a couple of calls. You do that for all your patients? I do. And I said, why? And he said, because I've noticed that the outcomes go up dramatically if I talk to them and ease their mind the night before. And if I follow up with them afterwards, I can usually catch things that they wouldn't come in for until later. If I'm on the phone with them, they'll say, hey, by the way, I've got a little ache here. Is that normal? He goes, that's normal. It's not a big deal. Otherwise, they come back to the hospital and they start the whole process. So he's managing the outcome from the beginning all the way to the end because the outcome affects him. Don't get me wrong. His numbers are influenced by the number of people that come back into the hospital and all that good stuff. I get that. But he also wants the patient to have the best possible outcome. So he's adding these steps to the process. And I said, where did you learn to do this? He said, they don't teach us in medical school. They don't teach us in all the training. I just learned it by trial and error. He said, I started to talk to patients before. They call with a problem. They couldn't get the pain pill or they had a cold and they were worried that they couldn't do the procedure. And he noticed that when he talked to them the night before, they did better in surgery. He said they came into the surgical unit that morning calmer. And then he started calling them afterwards when there would be issues. People call and say, hey, I need you to call me back. And he called back and he saw the outcomes improve there. So he started to realize that was part of the whole overall medical procedure. Now, I will tell you, when he was my doctor and he was doing the work, the only thing I cared about was the surgery. Get in there, fix my heart, get out. I want to be alive. That was really the extent of it for me. But the fact that he took it further made me feel comforted in the whole process, but also it helped me understand this whole idea that as a seller, we have a commitment to a good outcome. He could have done a great surgery, but a month later, I'm back in the hospital because I mismanaged the medicine or because there was a pain in my rib that I thought was normal and it turned out that was internal bleeding. And before it could be dealt with, I'm in the hospital and they're having to do emergency procedures. It's a very extreme example, yes. But even when we sell something, I bought some things from people, goods, and they'll call a couple days later. I bought a bed from a place that I would have never expected to call. 3 days later, they called, hey, just want to see how you like your bed. What? Just wanted to check in, see how you like your bed. Any problems? I bought something else about a year ago and I had to build it. And they called 2 days later and said, hey, have you built it? Yes. I said, I did. They said, do you have extra parts? I said, I do. It kind of concerned me. They said, no, we put extra parts in. I just wanted to make sure if you have one of everything, you did it right. Okay, that's really helpful to know. And I said, do I need to keep these parts? Is there any use? Well, you might be able to use some of the bolts, some of the nuts for various things around your house, but you don't need to keep it. Congratulations. Now you accomplished what you were trying to do. And it was just a really light call. And I think we often forget the value of that, because what it does for me each time that happens, it reinforces my buying decision. It's not just a sale and the money exchanges hands and then you're done. It's a, how do you like it? And I was in a liquor store and someone had recommended a bottle of wine to me. And I was in there a week later and he's like, hey, how'd you like that wine? I was like, wow, this guy remembered that. And oh, you know, it was really great. Thank you so much. He's like, oh, well, if you want to try something similar, let me know. So he was perpetuating the relationship and building the relationship by recognizing that. And I think that's something that we don't do as much when we're the seller. We kind of wash our hands of it. Okay, that one's done. On to the next sale. What do you think?
Yes, and I mean, I think that's that I would agree with all of that, and I think that there's also the, you know, how do you help ensure that the buyer has the success that you want? You know, one is the call to follow up to see if they enjoy it. I think the other is, what is the based on whatever it is you're selling, do you include instructions?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a customer service department that, or are you the customer service person that when people are frustrated, they can't figure out how to make the product work, they're not getting the results they expected, and what is your commitment there? You know, I think like a lot of retail stores will have return policies. And in some ways, that's part of their commitment as the seller, is that, hey, if you're not happy with this, bring it back with a receipt or however they, you know, whatever their policy is. And within 14 days, whatever. I think, you know, it's one of the things that some brands like LL Bean and there was another one that I can't think of right now, where pretty much had a lifetime guarantee. If you're not happy with
Land's End, wasn't it?
What one?
Land's End or Eddie Bauer?
Yeah, Land's End. I'm not sure about Eddie Bauer, but Land's End was, I think, maybe one of those as well, where if you're unhappy with it at any time, send it back. And, or if it's not, you know, achieving the results that it said it would, you know, if we said that the shoes would last for however long, if they're worn out, send them back to us. And I think they used that as an added benefit of buying from them instead of buying for somebody else, because you could be like, wow, I can do this, and then I feel a little more comfortable about what it might be. You know, I think it's different if you provide a service. You know, you have to you may have to return to do different work if you are not getting, if the customer didn't get the results that they desired. And some people might even say, hey, if you don't get the service, I'll give you a full money back guarantee. So I think as a business owner, we have to think about, or as the seller, we have to think about is what is our policy? What's our commitment to the buyer once the sale is made? And how are we going to create an atmosphere where, one, they value and appreciate and hopefully are committed to your product, and two, that they start to be able to work towards the results that they desire.
And also it can be a tool in terms of them feeling comfortable in making the buying decision, right?
Sure. Of course.
You know, if this doesn't work for you, I'll give you a refund, is different than, hey, I hope this works for you.
Yeah, right. Wash your hands and say, hey, good luck. You bought it. It's yours now.
Right.
You know, that was my commitment, was I would provide the product, goods, or service. You pay for it.
Right.
As Michael says, the things we do to build a long-term relationship, even GPS navigating.
Very nice.
Which is all in building on trust and mutual respect, both before and after the potential sale. Have a good experiences. You will come back. Smile.
And also, not only will you come back, but you'll tell other people.
Yes. I mean, I think
which is one of the things I don't think we think about in terms of that commitment as a seller. You know, so often I find myself telling people, you know, the doctor's story. I've told people that, and they're like, sorry, my cat just got his food bowl. It's automated, and it was the last feeding, so no more me. It's food time. Priorities. You know, when I tell the people that doctor's story, they're like, oh, my doctor didn't do that. And I remember one of my friends going, boy, if I ever have a serious heart issue, that's the doctor I want, which is really an interesting statement. If you really take it at face value, it's like, wow, that's really an interesting thing to say. But I think that's one of the things is that we can set a standard as a seller. And it's not, and I've talked to people about this before, people who are sellers, and at times they're like, well, I just can't fit that in. That's just too much work. That's not going to help. I'm not making any money from that. I've already made my money. If I've got to make that call, if I've got to do this follow up, that's additional time and effort, and it doesn't pay off for me because I can't make another sale. And it's like, well, you don't know that you won't make another sale. You might go back to the car dealer who checks on you in a couple of months, or I've been working with an insurance broker on some personal stuff, and she's called me several times and just informed me about things like, hey, I bought the penthouse, and she's like, oh, by the way, your auto insurance is going to change slightly because it's a different zip code. And what day do you want to cancel your renter's insurance? Because things that I wouldn't have thought about.
Sure.
And so then it's like, okay, this person's paying attention. Or I had someone who saw something I posted on Facebook, and they called me and said, hey, I saw this thing on Facebook. It has this implication. It's like, wow, this person's really paying attention to me as a buyer. So then it's an opportunity for me to say, this person isn't just in for the sale. They're in it to help me solve problems. I see Michael's got another one. Word of mouth is huge. The most positive buzzword in building business, which leads to increased sales and stronger brand reputation. And I think the word of mouth really comes from that commitment as a seller that, I talk about sometimes I've been to restaurants and the food has not been great, or it's been a bad night. The server's really bad. And you tell the manager or the owner, and they're like, hey, tell you what, why don't you come back again on us? Here's a voucher. I want you to have a really good experience. Come back and please try us again. I'll tell 10 people, and it's like, hey, we went to this restaurant, it wasn't really good, but the guy gave me a free meal to come back and try it again. So then people are like, okay, now I feel comfortable trying that restaurant myself, because they know the owner backs his commitment to have a good meal. And I think sometimes we just sort of, as sellers, we're like, okay, that wasn't a really good experience for our customer or our client. I hope they don't figure it out. Versus the more upfront, hey, you know what? That didn't go the way I think you were expecting. I'm really sorry. I just had a bad day. Or, one time I gave a presentation and I didn't feel that went really well. And afterwards I said, I think I dropped the ball here, here, and here. And the person was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And they said, I really appreciate that you came to me and said that most people wouldn't do that. I'm like, I want you to be happy because I want you to invite me back next year and the year after. And they said, oh, definitely, because you clearly care about what you do. And I think that's one of the things we can do as a seller is reinforce the fact that we care. It's not just a money transaction. It's a helping a person with a problem, and it's building the know, like, and trust factor so that it can lead to other things.
Yes. And I think it's also about ease of service, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Again, if you are, once you buy something, again, your ability to provide resources to support whatever that might be, and whether those resources are a customer service, an online frequently asked questions, or an online, I saw in one organization that they had the manual for, I forget what it was, something, maybe a lawnmower or something online, so that, or maybe whatever it was, an appliance, so that, how many people lose the manuals, and then they don't know what to do. And, this allows other people to be like, oh, okay, now I can figure it out. And it's interesting to me in some ways is if you have a customer service center,
Mhm.
are you is that because you've had a lot of issues, or you're trying to be prepared for future issues that may come? To me, that was as you were talking, I got lost in thought of, it's fascinating. Like, why do you feel like you need a customer service center if your work is so good or your product is so good?
Although I bought a piece of furniture and it came and the instructions were clear. I read through them. I couldn't find two parts. They were hidden in a certain place, and I just didn't. I glossed over that page. I called the customer service person, and she said, "Hey, do me a favor. I know this is going to sound really weird, but can you check this one place? I know it makes no sense at all. I totally get it, but could you do this?" I'm like, "Oh shoot, there they are." She's like, "About 80% of my calls are the same thing."
So is that to help you find maybe slight flaws in either your product, your packaging, your instructions? And that's an easier way to discover it than, it's just interesting. Like, if you didn't need
But you're scaling. I mean, think about it. If you sell 1 million units, Amazon can't call every single person every time I buy a product.
Sure.
They'd be calling me 4 times this morning. "Hey, how was that thing you bought yesterday?" 2 times tomorrow. They can't do that. So they're hoping they get it right. And the 1% or 0.5% or 3%, whatever the number is, that goes wrong, they want to have someone available to tackle it. But I think it's a bigger company. A small company like yours or mine, you're the customer service department. And frankly, I don't know that people think of you or me as the customer service department because they don't want to make that call to you or me because we have such a vested interest. Tom, I want to tell you, but I've been using your system for like the last 3 months. It's not working. That's a hard call to make. It's a lot easier to call the customer service person who's kind of a one-off. It's safe.
Yes, and it's making assumptions that you aren't going to get it correct every time, which is probably a good business practice.
Yes. I mean, isn't that one of the challenges as you scale any business? How do you ensure that the product or service works the way you want it to work? Think of your coaching business. If you expand to a point and then you need to bring on additional coaches, how can you guarantee that that's going to be exactly the way you want to do it? Because you have different individuals. Or if you have a widget, you're building the widget in Maryland, and then you hire a company out in, I don't know, Nevada to build the same widget. They have the same instructions, the same products, but there might be a slight deviation because, they do it an eighth of an inch different. And so the screw doesn't fit, not because of a mistake, just it is the way it is. So I think I look at that as not acknowledging that you're going to make mistakes as much as I want to help solve the challenge of the mistakes as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Right?
What's your one thing?
I think my one thing is around that commitment as a seller is we're responsible to help the customer or client through the whole use of the product or service, not just up to the point that we take their money. It's not, here's the credit card, you're done. It's here the credit card is, okay, phase 1 and phase 2 is complete. Now phase 3 is, how can I make sure that this service or product is really helping them the best it can? Unless they make a bad buying decision. If I'm using a screwdriver for a hammer, there's no customer service department that's going to really help you with that. That was a bad buying decision.
Is that a bad buying decision, or is it user error?
Or I could argue it could be a seller decision too. You didn't identify the problem very effectively, and therefore they're using a screwdriver where a hammer would have been better. Why didn't you explain to them, hey, by the way, a hammer might have done a better job of putting this nail into the wood than the screwdriver? Yes, you can do it with the screwdriver, it's going to take you a lot of time. It's probably going to hurt your arm a little bit. What's your one thing?
I think my one thing is that that I think the greater you want the relation to be, the greater the commitment is on the part of the seller.
Oh,
that if you truly
ding, ding, ding. Bravo. One of the best ones ever. I wish I'd thought of that one.
And so I think it's something for us to consider is how committed are we to the relationship with our clients or the people who purchase our products? And given that, we might want to have a greater commitment. To go back to like the LL Bean, they have invested a significant amount in a commitment to their customers and their willingness to, through a lot of various things, accept returns a long way down the road. And so I think that's the thing. There are people who offer a money back guarantee and it's 100%. And so that's a commitment that says, hey, we believe in our product. And if you're not getting the results that you desire and you're using it correctly and you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, following all of the instructions and committed to using it that way, that we'll either buy it back from you or we'll give you your money back. And I think that that's one way to help say, hey, look, I value this relationship. And the more I value it, the more my commitment might have to be.
I like that. That was really good.
Thanks.
Thank you. I need to hear that today.
All right, everyone. If you have a one thing you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments. If you're listening to our podcast where there is no place to comment, you can come in our Facebook pages and put your comment in the broadcast, or you can join us in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group where we're having conversations around this and other topics all the time. And we invite you to come in and share your value there where others will benefit from it. It might be just what they're looking for. And while you're there, you might find something that helps you figure out how to take your next step along your own unique pathway to success and build and grow the business that you desire with whatever the challenge may be. So we look forward to seeing you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. If not, we'll see you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m.-ish Eastern time for our next episode of Today's Antidote.
Hey, whatever you do today, embrace the renegading you. That's one of the ways you can honor your commitment to yourself. Ooh, buyer or seller, your commitment to yourself, embrace the renegading you today.
Excellent. All right, everyone, go out and enjoy the day. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening to Today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.